Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for a discussion on the real cost of managing your data. We're very happy here at Michell to be a source of information for everyone, and this is an area that we feel is very important. We're going to try to make this as productive as possible. We always know when we do these things how busy everyone is and how difficult it is sometimes to take the time to attend a webinar like this. So I want to make sure that this is very productive for you and it's something that you're going to find very useful. My name's Jeff Robles. I am the Senior Account Manager here with Michell, and we're going to walk through some things that quite frankly, when we are involved with our partners, I'm often surprised at the way that some companies look at the expense of managing data. So why don't we go right in? At the end, certainly we're going to take questions and answers, and if you have a question along the way, you can always raise your hand and text in a question. The real question that you need to ask, what happens is in walks a managed services salesperson, and they walk into your office and say, oh, look, we can manage your data for you for X number of dollars. And the first thing is a business owner, and we're all business owners. We all have challenges of being business owners. The first thing that in making any decision, I think we can all agree, is that you have to look and say, what is my break even? This is what I'm being offered. What is it costing me now to manage my data to make sure that my network is up and running? In other words, what's my break even? So we're going to go through a few of the different costs that you have in managing your data, whether it's costs that you see, and one of the obvious costs that you see if you're using a break-fix model is, well, here's the IT person, he's here to fix the printer. And the other parts are costs that you don't see, or sometimes we don't consider when we make a true analysis of our IT budget. So why don't we start with some costs that we see? Still surprised, and oftentimes companies still maintain a break-fix model in terms of managing their IT. And that break-fix model is just what it sounds like. Something's broken, my printer's down, my email's down, my computer's down, and now I have to call somebody to come in on site typically and fix the problem. So in other words, you're paying, and you know what you're paying time and material, you're paying for services when you're already losing money as a business, when your network's already down potentially, while your employees are sitting idle. And then on top of it, oftentimes the frustration is surprise. I thought this fix was only going to take an hour to fix and get billed for an hour of time, and it turns out to be something that took 10 hours to fix. And you get that wonderful bill in the mail that says, oh, you owe us this much money. But that's a cost that you can see. That's a cost that you see and you deal with. Now, what we really want to focus on when you're doing what we call an ROI, when we call what is your break even for managing your network, are the costs that you don't see. And the costs that you don't see are things like vendor management. Vendor management, when it comes to managed services and in terms of taking care of things, it's the most popular thing any client talks to us about. But you're doing vendor management. You are dealing with various different vendors. It could be telecom vendors, software vendors, equipment vendors, the list goes on and on. So you have to assign somebody to take care of that. And the second part is the revenue or productivity loss that exists when you have staff that are performing IT functions. Maybe you hired someone to do something else, but you know how it goes in our businesses, especially in small businesses. Somebody has delegated the task to handle IT, and that employee could be productive and could be creating revenue for you by doing something else. The other parts are the revenues that your business loses due to network downtime. I mean, when your network is down and you're paying for that break fix, what is that costing your business? What is the labor costs that you're still paying your employees even though they can't access their work on their computers? What are those costs? We're going to go through these step by step, and with the idea that hopefully at the end of this you're going to be able to take a look and have some sort of an idea what your true break-even is in terms of managing your data. So we understand the costs we do see. Why don't we dig deeper into the costs we don't see? First of all, vendor management. Like I told you, when we go in and talk to partners and we talk to them, well, part of managed services is vendor management, we usually get the same expression. What? What do you mean vendor management? You're going to take care of this stuff? Well, yes, and that should be something that you consider, because the cost that you're facing right now to do vendor management on your own, sometimes companies are unaware of them and they haven't done the analysis. So it's pretty straightforward. When we talk to people about vendor management, the first thing you want to understand is how many vendors are you managing. When you have a software vendor that you're dealing with, a telecom vendor, like I said, an equipment vendor, the list can go on. But let's say you're managing eight different vendors. Now the question comes is the number of hours that you spend managing these vendors per month. And, if you have 8 vendors, maybe you're dealing on a monthly basis on average. Maybe you're only dealing with, I don't know, half an hour per vendor, maybe an hour per vendor, maybe an hour and a half, but you'll know that number, and you can go to the person that you've delegated to that task and they'll tell you what the number of hours they spend a month dealing with vendors. Then you simply look at what's the hourly rate of that person assigned. Oftentimes, in small businesses especially, these people that are managing the vendors are perhaps yourselves, owners, senior management, people that, quite frankly, their hourly rate is higher than the average in the company. So when you take a look at that, you do the math and you can see how much revenue you're spending, how much are you losing to annually managing the vendors, because you take that information and then you multiply it out and you can see, whoa, just vendor management alone, in an example, let's say if you're managing 8 vendors and monthly you're spending, or the person delegated is spending 12 hours a month on managing vendors, and you know how easy that is, because if you were ever faced with dealing with one of the telecom vendors that you have and our phone system's down, well, the first thing is you're hanging out on the phone on hold as you're transferred from person to person, and before you actually talk to somebody, you might be on the phone for at least an hour, and the time just goes by very quickly. But let's say you're spending 12 hours a month doing that, and let's say the manager's average hourly rate is $33.65 an hour. If you do that math, it winds up being about $5,000 a year that you're losing by managing vendors yourself. So that is vendor management. Why don't we move on to another topic, which is overall revenue and productivity loss by the staff performing IT functions. You have staff out there, never mind vendor management, but you have a staff member out there that is responsible for doing IT functions. And every month they may have, hey, can you show me, the printer's not working, or can you help me fix this computer here, or hey, I don't understand why, but I can't pull up my emails, or something along those lines. So you have typically have delegated that duty to a staff member. So again, let's say that staff member on average spends, depending on your company size of course, but just use easy numbers, let's say they spend each month 12 hours working on IT functions. And this isn't necessarily an employee that you hired originally just to take care of IT. But let's say again that the average hourly rate of this person is $33.65, which seems to be the norm. That's another $5,000 just from that staff member dealing with IT functions annually every year, right? Moving along. Now here's the big one that people look at and they say, well, my network's not down all the time. It's rarely down. We rarely have issues. But when you really do an analysis, you want to take a look at what is it costing you annually for your network downtime. And this is a little more in detail, but the logic is there. The first thing that you want to look at is how many users do you have on your network? Let's say you have 25 people. Let's say you have 25 employees that are on the network on a regular basis. And let's say you have, just use a number, let's say you have a typical number, 3 servers at your location. So then you want to break it down and take a look at the network downtime itself. And you want to say, well, how often is my email services down per month? How many hours? And let's say it's only, half an hour a month. Maybe half an hour a month total. Is it down? Are your email services down? And how often is my internet connection down per month? And let's say that's less. Let's say that's not even half an hour a month. Let's say that's only 15 minutes a month that it's down. How often is my server or desktops down in a month? Well, that might be a little more. I mean, there's some issues depending on if you're doing patchwork and whatnot. But let's say per month it's down maybe 2 hours. So if you just add those numbers up and you see your total hours that your network is down monthly, that would be 2 hours, 2 3/4 hours, 2.75 hours. Multiply that out for the year, the total hours your network is down annually winds up to be 33. Now, you have to look at, when your network is down, you want to look at your labor costs. You want to take a look, you want to take a look at the labor costs when your network is down. So this is an analysis you've probably already done in terms of what your payroll is and whatnot. But let's say the average salary per employee at your business is $45,000 a year. So you add up all your employees and your total employee yearly payroll would be a little over $1 million, $1,125,000. So the average annual employee hours, just using a 40-hour work week, is 2,080 hours. The total annual employee hours works out to be 52,000. So your average hourly labor cost per employee with that $45,000 a year job is $21.63 in our example. So if you're down 33 hours annually, and so you're still paying $21.63 an hour to your employees, the revenue loss to downtime annually adds up quickly. That's just under $18,000. So to be exact, because I've done this before, that would be about $17,850 a year. So you look at that and you add up the different costs, not including the costs that you see to do break fix. You have about a $5,000 cost to vendor management. You have another $5,000 cost to assigning IT roles to somebody within your organization. So that's 10. And then you have about $18,000 worth of downtime, revenue loss annually to your network being down. You add those numbers together, you're looking at approximately $30,000 a year in terms of managing your network. So when somebody comes in, now you can look and say, oh, this salesperson came in, if they're a salesperson, or an advisor comes in, hopefully, and they talk to you about things, about doing vendor management for you, about making sure that you have unlimited remote support for all your servers and unlimited remote support for all your desktops and printers and scanners and copiers. Make sure that it's 24/7, 365. All the monitoring that's being done and all the patchwork that gets done. Make sure that you're getting all the antivirus put in. Unlimited remote monitoring for all client SQLs or line of business servers. and you listen to all the things that are included, and again, you add in vendor management services. You look at that, and they come to you with something along the lines of, let's say it's $2,100 a month, okay? $2,100 a month, and you look at that, and you say, oh my goodness, that's $25,200 a year I'm going to be paying for somebody to do managed services for me. Well, without even considering the break fix, that's actually saving your organization close to $5,000 a year by having somebody do all these functions for you. So these decisions on how to manage your data and how to manage your network aren't just based on how you're feeling today. It should be based on real numbers, your numbers. I gave you an example just to walk you through how someone might be doing an ROI or an analysis, and how can you make these decisions without doing something like this. So, can this be done, really? What are the next steps? Absolutely. That person that walks into your door and wants your business for managed services, ask them if vendor management's included. Ask them what's included in all the services. Do a true ROI. Ask them to do an ROI analysis for you, and it should be for free. You should not need to pay somebody to do an ROI analysis for managing your network. It should be something that's done for free. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. We're certainly happy to do that analysis for you. We'd love that opportunity. And if you do have any questions, or if you're looking to do an analysis, here's my contact information. You can reach me by email. You can go on to our website, or you can call me directly. And we would love the opportunity to meet with you individually. So, I really thank you for your time today, and I told you we were going to be brief and we were going to be to the point. And at this point, I want to see if there's any questions, if there's anything that I can do for you specifically.